Hello, and welcome to our first in a series of conversations where we explore how technology is helping create a more accessible world and opening up new doors for participation, for belonging, for inclusion, and connection. I'm Dave Hollander, and in each episode, I get to sit down with someone who's making a difference in the accessibility space. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Andy Bellavia. Andy has more than 12 years of experience in the hearing field, and he is currently the founder of Aura, which is a go-to-market and branding consultancy for the hearing and broader accessibility space. When he's not co-hosting the podcast This Week in Hearing, he's speaking, he's writing on developments in accessibility, and then, of course, also advocating for hearing care innovation and inclusion. Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for joining us and being here. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
It's great to be a part of it. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So before we jump in, I thought I'd borrow a little bit of a tradition from one of our weekly team meetings here at the SIG, where we try to kick things off with what we call a ritual question. Trust me, it's nothing serious. It's just, an unexpected question to have some fun, get to know you a little bit, and get the conversation flowing. Are you up for it?
I'm up for it. Fire away. And I have to say, I have not heard this question in advance, so I'm not responsible for the outcome.
You're right. Absolutely. That's a good caveat that the audience should know about. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Andy, would you rather have chairs that cheer every time you sit down or lights that do a disco dance when you enter a room?
Oh, I like the lights with the disco dance, right? I think then, yes, the lights go off. I come in dancing. Everybody's in a good mood, ready to have a good time. Yeah, that fits my personality.
I love it. I love it. There's no better way to enter a room than to some disco. I think one of the first things that I'd love to hear from you is a little bit about what accessibility means to you personally.
Well, I think really it means enabling people to lead their best lives. As a society, we have certain baselines that evolved that enables the majority of people to do this. Things like sidewalks so people can walk to stores, that sort of thing. But our baseline doesn't enable everybody to do that. And this can be thought of very holistically. For example, in the US about 100 years ago, electricity was seen as one of those enablers, that people couldn't lead their best, most productive lives without electricity. So we had programs to electrify every corner of the country, all rural areas, everything. That was seen as an accessibility enabler. Today, we see this playing out globally with high-speed internet. Now, when you think about disability, it really isn't any different. How do we enable more people to successfully navigate our physical world, to work at the top of their potential, or to communicate? When we do that, more people are happier, healthier, and more productive.
Absolutely. How did you get involved in advocacy? What drove you to become an accessibility advocate?
Well, it really started when I began working at a company supplying the hearing industry more than a dozen years ago now. And I learned all the good that was being done to enable people to hear well, but I also learned how a lot of people were being left out for one reason or another. And I began to think, how could I contribute to improving that situation, both through my work and personally? Then about 7 years ago, my own hearing degraded a result of too many rock bars and loud music. It degraded to the point where I needed to address it and get hearing devices. And so now I had the lived experience with hearing loss added to that, and it really amplified my desire to influence the outcome in this industry, how to bring effective hearing care to more people on a global basis. And that's why I formed my company, Aura Futurity, to do just that. But I also arranged specifically to have some time carved aside so that I could also do advocacy aside from addressing that professionally.
You mentioned the lived experience. Can you help us understand some of the biggest, day-to-day barriers that people face when environments or solutions aren't accessible?
Yeah, if we take it more generally, it means that people are unable to realize their full potential. So if I look at it holistically, it doesn't mean only professionally, but it also means their ability to form relationships, have meaningful experiences, or share their own personal gifts with others. whatever the barrier is for whatever circumstance they're in, when those things are not available, environments or tools, then they are prevented from living their best life. And that, I think, is the challenge that we all face in different ways, in the challenge to improve in different ways. Because hearing difficulties of all kinds have a surprisingly high prevalence. Even there are in the United States alone, and you can just extrapolate globally, there's 25 million people roughly that actually don't measure as having hearing loss, but have a hard time hearing in certain circumstances. So it's a very high prevalence case. When one cannot hear well, their brains work harder. And the result of that is they have less ability to absorb and comprehend what's being said because they're just working so hard just to understand the words in the first place. And because of that, people become more fatigued, even if they're not aware of it. And by the end of the day, they can be worn out. Stress levels can increase, comprehension goes down, along with one's ability to contribute meaningfully to the conversation. I've had people, for example, tell me they no longer attend their church in person because they have a hard time hearing what's being said there. Well, what a shame that is. And so to be able to assist the person so that they can hear well and immerse themselves in that. Same thing with theater, for example. I recently talked to a person who loves to go to theater, but they find it hard because the accessible solutions in place aren't working for them, and therefore they've withdrawn from going to theater. I mean, these are the sorts of things that it just I hate when I hear that happening, and I love being able to play some small role in helping people improve those situations so that they can really do the things that they love to do.
What do you wish that more people could understand about disability, access, inclusion?
What it really is, it's about making sure more people can participate and contribute to the things we as a society see as meaningful and important. And this isn't even charity. Some people look at it as charity. It's not at all. It's very pragmatic. For example, in the workplace, it means enabling people to perform at their best on the job. That's really just good business. And overall, when people lead happier, more fulfilling lives, they tend to contribute more to society and they create less of a burden in society. And so, therefore, it's really not a kind of charitable thing, something that, allows us to feel good. It's something that actually brings more people happier, more productive lives, which is something we all want.
So true. If we're all able to live our best life individually, then we live better lives collectively too.
Exactly. Great way of putting it.
So where do you see technology now making kind of the biggest difference for people with accessibility needs?
Yeah, well, how many hours do we have? I'll focus on hearing in this case. Now, recently, especially in the last couple of years, technologies have greatly improved to enable people to hear better in all circumstances, like face-to-face with devices, in public settings, online. And therefore, this suite of technologies enables people to bring their best selves to any situation, virtual, in person, or collective.
Bluetooth is playing a role in the accessibility space and the area in of audio accessibility in particular. There's Bluetooth, of course, itself, and then now with the addition of Auracast and the introduction of Auracast, can you talk a little bit about the role that Bluetooth is playing in the accessibility space, particularly when it comes to audio inclusion?
Well, up until the present moment, we've had a big patchwork of proprietary connectivity systems, and this has caused a lot of problems. You have, for example, with mobile phone connectivity, and because they're proprietary systems, you could see that they were not always supported as a core function by the mobile phone company. So, for example, you would have an operating system change, and every hearing aid connected to that mobile phone would drop off. And hearing care professionals have been driven crazy by all this. And so you're not enabled to provide the best service for your clients because of this patchwork of proprietary systems. So the idea of standardizing through Bluetooth has two positive effects. One is it enables innovation. So any third party then can develop a Bluetooth remote microphone that performs better than other ones, so there's a lot of innovation in this area to keep driving improvement. And the other then is because uh, everything connects with everything else. For hearing care people and their clients, it becomes very easy for them to support the system. It all works the same, regardless of device, regardless of hearing device. So it becomes much easier for hearing care professionals to enable their clients to use these things, and it enables innovation in that space. The standardization is good. I mean, you see that with regular Bluetooth now. I can buy a Bluetooth true wireless headset, and I know it's going to connect to my other Bluetooth devices. Now, bringing that to the world of hearing will will give those same benefits, and even more so when all the kinks are worked out. Not everybody's a technical expert, so standardization makes it easier for more people to enjoy the benefits of connectivity.
Most recently, when it comes to standardization, Bluetooth has introduced Auracast. And Auracast, as you well know, is, brings broadcast audio to Bluetooth. Can you talk a little bit about the implications of that for public spaces and the experience that they get to offer people with all levels of hearing health?
Yeah, so there has been a standard solution called a hearing loop where you lay copper loops in the floor of a public space, and then people with hearing aids with the corresponding device called a T-coil inside could tune into it. But there are issues with it. One is that you have to have a compatible hearing aid. So, for example, I might be one of those people without measurable hearing loss, but in a reverberant meeting room, I have a hard time understanding what's being said. How do I enjoy that? Now you can do it. There are receivers that you can take with you and put a headset on and so on, but not everybody wants to be seen wearing that rig, and people want to be able to use their own devices that work well for them. And the other is that it's hard to pull that off in temporary settings. So if I, for example, go into a hotel ballroom where they've got walls that move around, it's hard to install hearing loops in all the different configurations that room could have. And yet with Auracast, you can just walk in with the transmitter on a tripod pole, set it up, plug it into the soundboard that's rolled into the facility during a meeting, and transmit that for anybody to use. Now, I'll also say that this is, of course, nascent technology. People are first starting to think truly about the user experience. And even though people can bring their own devices, hearing aids or earbuds or whatever, we need to continue to think about the user experience so that all people with all abilities can easily tune into that solution. The hearing loop had one big plus, and that is you could just simply touch the button on your hearing aid to turn it in. And I think we need to think more about the user experience to enable that with Auracast too. But it's going to happen, and it's going to be very exciting because you're going to, in terms of accessibility, bring better hearing to more people and more environments than was ever possible before.
There seems to be a lot of focus too on the potential for public venues, but can you talk a little bit about the impact for people with hearing loss who do use hearing instruments? Phones will soon be able to, and some already do, will be able to broadcast personal audio to those around us, family, friends, and they can listen in. Are there what kind of benefit could that bring to people with hearing instruments who are always on the lookout for ways to listen in?
Yeah, so this sort of small personal sharing environment has a lot of interesting use cases, and some of them I think we're only really starting to think about. For example, right now in this environment, I'm using LE audio from my computer to listen. It's a one-to-one. But I could also put a small Auracast transmitter on, which I've sometimes done. And then if two or three of us are sitting in front of this very PC having a meeting, we could all listen through our devices. Same thing with TV watching, for example. I've got an Auracast transmitter on my television, so if somebody else came in with a hearing device or wanted to use an Auracast capable earbud, we could both hear the audio of the television simultaneously. And so lots of things. Two or three people are watching a movie while they're on the train, for example. They can all listen to the audio through their devices. I think these are some really interesting use cases that are coming.
Yeah, yeah. You talked about the user experience. If you could design the perfect accessible experience, what would that look like?
Well, if I'm designing it at high level, I would say it has to be seamless, it has to be intuitive, and it has to be effective for as many people as possible that are being targeted by that solution.
This has been great. It's been incredibly informative. I really appreciate your insights and your perspective. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, before we wrap up?
Well, I think if I were to put a ribbon around this whole thing, I would say think about audio accessibility as a way to enable the people to be at their best wherever they are in life. And anything we can do to further that is good for all of us.
That's so true. Very well spoken. Everyone being at our individual bests means that we can be at our collective best too. And who wouldn't champion that cause? I appreciate you championing that cause. I've really enjoyed our time together, and thank you again for sharing this time and sharing your perspective.
It's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you thinking of me and inviting me to be a part of it.
Yeah, wouldn't do it without you. Thanks.
You're welcome.